5 scores! Rick Bud.
We decided to get ourselves back in the game again with our podcast.
Rick Bud, Gary Neville.
Probably the craziest story that you're ever going to hear about hockey.
We're going to be coming back to you on a regular basis.
You are listening to Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan.
Hello, Canada and hockey fans of the United States and Newfoundland. And an extra big hello to Canadian servicemen overseas.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Squid and Ultimate Leafs Fan Show. I'm Mike Wilson, the Ultimate Leafs Fan. Normally, I'll be introducing my winger, Ricky Squid Vibe, but he's not here today. He's got some other issues to deal with that he has to take care of. So I'm riding solo today. So hopefully you guys will put up with me as we go along. But there's so much to talk about in the world of sports today that we just can't afford not to talk to you guys this week. So here we go. So starting right off, it doesn't get any bigger than the World Cup. It's taken over our city along with Vancouver and southern United States. While admittedly I'm not a big soccer fan, I can't help but be full of national pride by the way our national team has performed to date. Now, being a hockey show, I have to admit, we always find a twist in that regard that gets it back to hockey when discussing other sports. So what I love about our guys was the way they banded together Tarcone's injury, and he was hurt, and a hockey mentality frame of mind went after the guitar players. Now, I'm not sure the one guy did try to hurt him. It looked like it was a bit of a cheap shot, but again, I don't really follow soccer, so I'm not really sure if that was or not, but it looked a little bit over-aggressive. Now, the second one is about halfway up the guy's leg, and that flagrant red flag was definitely a cheap shot. I love the fact that the players went after them. They went after them after the game, and that's the good old Canadian DNA coming out. So I love that, and I just thought that's just wonderful. And I think that type of bonding and team sportsmanship like that is just going to pull those guys together. And look out Switzerland on Wednesday. So I think our boys will get them. So I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention the exciting buzz the countries like Scotland, Germany, and Norway. To mention just a few of them are brought to all the cities. The Scots have partied nonstop, starting on the plane. They drank the plane dry. They get into Boston. They basically drank Boston dry. And even Samuel Adams, which is one of the main sponsors of one of the breweries, they ran out of beer one day. They had kegs delivered. So, I mean, these guys are just partying nonstop. The Norwegians the same way. But the thing about it is, folks, these guys, and again, this is an Irish population in Boston by mostly, by the way, so don't drink my Irish people. That's quite a feat in itself, by the way. But the other thing is, it's been done in a non-confrontational, respectful way. And that's the way fans should be responding. And the other thing is they brought that high-octane energy to Fenway Park. The Blue Jays were playing there last week. And you could just hear these guys. And I'm just telling you, Boston people and throughout the United States just love these guys and love what they've brought to their city. Our streets were filled and flooded with German fans over the weekend. I just thought it was awesome because that's the way sports is supposed to be. This is just magnificent. The Norwegians the same way. They've been just acting absolutely fantastic, and they make the whole World Cup situation just worthwhile just to see that and see everybody come together. But it's in a friendly way, and as I keep saying, very respectful. Again, on the lighter side of things from the World Cup that we've never seen ever before, France from Paraguay and Japan both cleaning up under the seats after their matches. I mean, that's absolutely unheard of in North America. That's another sign of respect, and I think it's just fantastic. I mean, here's these kids and all that going around bags and picking up the garbage. It's just awesome to see all this developing as the tournament moves along and it gets into the knockout round starting later this week or next week, and that's when things get really interesting. But it certainly rises above the disgraceful and disgusting behavior of New York Knicks fans earlier in the week. And just everybody's said enough about that, and it's just despicable what went on. Now, let's get to the hockey side of things here. I'll begin with congratulating the Carolina Hurricanes, Stanley Cup victory, a great final series. Just when it looked like the Knights had them by the collar, the Canes just stepped up and turned it back to their side. They protect the lead better than anyone with suffocating defense, and it's almost a death sentence for a team chasing the game against these guys. And remember as well, this is a team that lost 3 elite forwards in the last 2 years. Jake Gunsel, Martin Necas, and Mikko Rantanen. That would cripple most teams, but the Canes just roll the lines and stick to the plan, and they're hoisting the cup, and they're still partying like it's like a crazy night the other night, and they're still going on a day-to-day, and they deserve every bit of it. Our Toronto Marlies, Got on a run with a hot goaltender and a relentless game plan to wear teams down and capture their second Calder Cup in 8 years, pardon me. Just for the record, the team you beat was Carolina's minor league team, the Chicago Wolves. And it's no coincidence winning teams have strong farm systems. You've heard me barking away at the lack of media coverage afforded the Marlies throughout the year. Well, finally, some of the Sportsnet woke up and put the final games on. Folks, I just don't understand. It's the second best league in the world and a feeder system for future NHLers. For our new listeners in the Hamilton area, you have a team coming to your neighborhood next year. Do yourself a favor, folks. If you have never attended an AHL game, buy a ticket, go to a game, buy season's tickets. Believe me, for a little cost of more than a movie ticket, you will be thoroughly entertained. The hockey's great. These guys are very passionate, and these guys don't take shifts off. Believe me, they're working it because it is basically every game's pretty much a drought. You won't be disappointed. Our man, John Chaka, he had a very eventful or active month since taking the GM position, and he had to be smiling with joy with what he saw from the Marlies, actually. The level of confidence for players like Easton Cowan, who still has some work to do on the other side of the puck, but Sean at times. Yes, he has too many giveaways, but in case you were or weren't aware, the leaders in giveaways in NHL were guys by the name of Nathan McKinnon, Nikita Kucherov, Jack Hughes, and some guy named Connor McDavid. And why is that? Well, it's because they get the puck all the time, so they're going to turn it over more than the average guy. So those are mistakes that, they may come back and hurt you times, but those are ones that coach will live with the players got the puck all the time. And Cowan did have 3 assists in the final game. He's going home now with an abundance of confidence and should roll in the camp next year and ready to make his mark. Young Ben Danforth also made great strides after finishing what was supposed to be a long junior playoff run, but instead turned to a long AHL run into a championship, playing a very difficult position on the D side. A stint with the Marlies next fall, if he has to start the season there, is going to be great for his development. What he's just learned in the last 4 or 5 weeks is just you just can't put a price on that, and that is really, really going to help him moving forward. And that's a great thing to see. Players like Jake Gillen, Michael Pizzetta, Vinny Leterrier, Ben Gruel. I'm sure I'm butchering all these guys' names. Sorry, boys. To mention, you should get a great look next fall. Even a kid like Landon Sim, who was with the Cincy Cyclones in ECHL League, that's Marty's farm team, was a healthy scratch a lot of times. But this kid, when he got in the lineup, he just started running everything in sight. He upped his game. He became a complete pain to play against. And I know a friend of mine who's the announcer on the other side just said, this guy just won't get out of everybody's way, and he just caused nothing but havoc. And listen, that's just the type of energy the Leafs are missing. Villeneuve is another defenseman that stood a little bit. Rapid also played very well. So they've got a lot of guys down there with an opportunity. And Squid and I have talked about this a lot over the last couple of years. When the team is actually much closer than it is right now, that it comes to a point in time where Marlies have to step up and grab a job, take a job. It hasn't happened yet. But you now have renewed confidence with a cup win. You've got a new management. You've got a new coach. You got outside of a few forward spots that are locked up. And on the back end, the same way, every job is basically open. If ever there was an opportunity for someone to step up and make an impression, it's now or never. So it's not all doom and gloom in Leaf land. On the goaltending front, look at the young Russian stole the net. He played fantastic, won the MVP. He put himself certainly in the running, and also that attributed probably to the trade, which I'll get to in a second, with Joseph Woll. Hildeby's already shown he's an NHL-ready goalie. So as a result, I mean, and again, this opened up the door for the Leafs to move a goalie, and I was good with that Woll and Benoit trade. Woll has been regularly hurt since he was drafted 10 years ago, and therefore not dependable or reliable on that front. He became expendable as a result. Stoller, too, has the same injury issues. You'll recall Florida didn't rush too hard or press too hard to keep him in their lineup, by the way. I mean, he was a free agent a couple of years ago. But I suspect his contract was probably weighed a little heavier, made it a little bit tougher to move him. So they moved Woll. And as far as Benoit goes, he became less effective last year. And when he did play, he wasn't the same type of player. And I think maybe for his benefit as well, a change of scenery may do him some good and give him another lift in his game. Now, as we're moving along here, free agency, I've never been a big fan. maybe to accept the tinker lineup at a very minimal cost, if that is the case, it may be. But I believe teams that dive into free agency, there are exceptions to this rule, of course, but I just think they're desperate teams trying to buy their way out of trouble. It just doesn't work. The GM may be trying to save his job, trying to keep the fans happy, and most importantly, show the owner he's doing something or they're doing something as a team. This is just not the way to win in this game. I mean, in this instance, though, with Radish, it's a big risk, especially coming off a career like he did, especially with his past, not showing anything nowhere near what he did last year. But as the exception to the rule goes here, with the first overall pick and an entry-level contract to boot coming along with that, which is a big cost saving, the cost of a fifth rounder and money, and it's only money at this point in time, for the Leafs in this case, it's worth the risk. And I have no problem with that. Listen, they've got to make a move. They made a move there. They needed a puck-moving defenseman. They needed a shot from the point in the power play. They've got it now, and hopefully he's the guy. But you also have to remember, when the Leafs were last in this situation, I don't want to throw water on the fire here too much, but the David Clarkson situation never worked out. Well, actually, it never really started. So keep that in mind. But in this situation, we're hoping for the best here, and this one does work out. But folks, as I've said all along, the surefire formula in today's game is to draft, develop, re-sign, and repeat, period. Just take a look at the up-and-coming teams in the National Hockey League, like Chicago, San Jose, Montreal, all those teams. That's the exact formula that they're using. Carolina was another team that did that. And outside of a tinker here or there, you can only win through the depth. You have to have a top goalie. You have to have a top defenseman. You have to have a top centerman. You cannot trade for those guys. You have to draft them. And that's usually the general rule. Look at the Detroit great teams over the years. That's how they built those teams. John Hiller as a coach, they conducted an exhaustive search as they said they would. Not sure how he sold himself over the others, but the fact that he ran the power play here the 4 years he was in Toronto, and it was very successful, and it hasn't been since he's left. So that was one thing for his favor. Also, the fact that LA was very strong defensively, but they were before he got there, but the fact he maintained it was a good sign in his favor. And also the fact he's dealt and knows what to expect from the Toronto media, which even though the media defend themselves all the time and say they don't do anything, they're notoriously noted throughout the league as being relentless and being just brutal on guys. And they are. And you saw at his press conference how he handled them. They tried to stick him around and trip him up a few times, but he knew exactly just how to give them just enough and keep things back and keep it close to his chest without really saying anything. So he handled them just perfectly right to start things off, and he set the bar just in that frame of mind right off the bat. So I would have to say that, taking a combination of all those things I just mentioned, gave him definitely a strong arm up or a strong leg up on the competition. Now, the other thing is, I guess I should say from a personal, notwithstanding the fact he comes from the town of Port Alberni in Vancouver Island, I played there for a couple of years, so I guess I have to cheer for him after all, as it is. So there you have it. Now, of course, typical in Toronto, we do have all the bad stuff came out, and all the bad stuff at Chaka came out until a sensible journalist wrote some of the positive things he had done while he was with Arizona. And the good seemed to outweigh the bad. And I think you'll see the same with Hilliard. And listen, the fact remains, look, these two, if they've had some bad things going in the past, we've all got things in our closet that we don't want to talk about from the past. Maybe they've learned for it, hope that they've learned for it, and they leverage this moving forward ahead. And listen, to use other stuff as a startup and how to get better at what they're doing. Now they're moving into these positions, and hopefully things work out for the best. Now, Leafs do have room to make some more rooms. They have room to make more moves, obviously, is what I was trying to say. Brady Tkachuk getting moved yesterday, along with the Quinn Hughes trade back mid-season, certainly set the bar for players of this stature. The picks Ottawa received as a result didn't seem like much, but my feeling is they'll probably be used for to acquire forward in the trade, maybe even in the next couple of days before the draft this week. But now the other thing is, the Matthews situation, if it does happen to turn sour in the next year or sooner, this is probably the framework for what's to be expected in return after we saw what came back from Quinn. He was basically 4 first-round picks. So, 3 of them are playing, and then you get 3 first-round picks in the second for Tkachuk. So somewhere between all of that, or just Senator Armand is the same type of thing that you could expect for 34, but things didn't happen to work out. But I am told, and it's interesting enough also, that his ticket expires in 2 years, the same as Taychek's. So it was funny how Taychek's strongest value was currently right now, and the same thing could be said about 34. So I am told, though, however, that the talks have gone on very well for him, and he does want to stay here, and he does want to play and win here. So that's a good sign, and maybe wearing that C has really rubbed off on him and him turned him the right way. So anyway, we hope that continues and that moves on. Well, as I like to point out in summary, everything is a risk. A player can come in here, it just doesn't work out. A player may never get comfortable playing in a new city, can't adjust, it's an injury, family isn't comfortable, maybe the schools aren't working out for the kids, his wife or whoever it is can't make friends, something that's a distraction that throws a player off. So there's always something some mitigating situation that can turn things the wrong way whenever you try to move a player to your team. So these are all the things. It's always a risk. But the positive the Leafs can take away from this, they are trying to deal with the holes and trying to steer the team back in the right lane. So that's the one thing we can say from all of this. And what we've seen so far, you have to show a little bit of optimism. And of course, with the draft coming up this week, some further changes could take place just as we're speaking right now, or maybe within the next couple of days. So I think I've given you enough for today. As I said, hopefully Jim and John can get their act together, get everything on the same page, and turn things back to the positive for Maple Leafs and for Maple Leaf fans. And so at this point, usually where Squid and I are having a little chat, and I would usually throw the quote of the week at him. But it's pretty obvious we have to remain very positive with regards to the Leafs and what's in store, starting with the draft coming up later this week. So keeping that in mind, you have to keep the faith, folks. But here's today's quote for you. Now, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Let me say that again. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Think about that long and hard. That's really, as a hockey player, and we know all the players love to watch our show. So you guys are take that to the gym when you hit the gym tomorrow morning, or get on the ice skating when you're starting already, and your summer training has started. So there you have it, folks. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. Squid will be back next week with me. In the meantime, enjoy the show. We are going to show you a clip of one of our podcasts. Producer Boris is going to pick one for you and surprise you with one of our many, many podcasts that are on our library of Squid and the Ultimate Leaf Band. They're available on our YouTube channel, Squid and the Ultimate Leaf Band Show. Just look us up there. There's 123, and there's some dandies there. And we're going to play a clip of one of them for you here at the end of this show. So, folks, tune in to us again next week at this time. We'll be back to see you again. And again, thanks, everybody, for listening. Well, without any further ado, all right, let's welcome Matt Sundin. Matt, first off, thanks for joining us, and how's things?
Everything is great. Very nice introduction there. I got to remind my kids once in a while that I had a good hockey career back then. They don't listen to me nowadays.
Well, so how are you?
Well, all you need to do is show them what Mike just said, and then they'll understand.
Exactly. Nice to have me. Thanks for having me on board today, guys.
So now, how are you keeping busy these days?
Well, I'm there. I talked to another former teammate today. I said, you had your small children during your career, and I had them after. And, the kids are 10, 8, and 6. So days are over here chasing them around. We just had a winter break last week where the kids were out of school, and we were up in the mountains here skiing and all that. And now I need to go on a vacation after that. Chasing the kids around. I thought it was hard playing in the National Hockey League until I start taking care of the 3 kids. But everything is great. 3 kids. I got some other businesses going. I have my foundation with University of Toronto and Karolinska Institute. We nominate. We have a postdoc that we fund doctors for their postdoc studies. So I have spent some time doing that. So things are busy.
That's fantastic. Well, You just answered the question I was going to ask you. Do you still keep in touch with a lot of guys in Toronto that you played with?
There's a few guys, I think as many of you know, everybody is living far away from each other, and everybody gets on with their lives after their career. But we had a great weekend here when Rick and some of the guys from Toronto was over for the Boris Salming game, and stay in touch with a few guys. But as years go by, and if you're not in the same area or you don't meet up for hockey things, it could be long between the meetings, but it's always great to see each other. And every time you do, it feels like yesterday, right?
Well, I was going to ask you about the Boreas Salming, tribute and event that you guys just partaked in. Squid has been telling me all about it, and he said, how emotional it was, just how fantastic it was. Now, from the Swedish side, how did you view the whole event?
Well, I think it was really good. I think we raised a lot of money for the ALS Foundation that Boreas started. I think Brynäs, the town Gävle where Boreas played 2 years in the Swedish league, did a fantastic job of arranging this event. It's a sold out arena. They broadcasted nationally on TV, which obviously helped us raise a lot of money. And the most important thing, that Toronto Maple Leafs came over with an alumni team. And I think for us that are part of the alumni of Toronto, and many of us don't get a chance to come to Toronto on a weekly basis. And for Rick and all the guys coming over from Toronto for this weekend, it's a long trip. It's a big commitment, but that really made the whole event as good as it was. So there's a lot of different parts, but big thumbs up for Toronto alumni making a trip over and making this event happen.
It's great.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I enjoyed every single minute of it. Well, except at night, I never got much sleep. But but other than that, the whole event was fantastic. Getting to see Boreas kids that I hadn't seen for however many years was unbelievable. And I think Matt said it the best. The place where he played before he came to the National Hockey League did an unbelievable job of putting this event on. The rink was full. It was, and the best part about it was the Leafs alumni won.
Exactly.
Wasn't there sort of a code you're supposed to let the home team win?
No.
Now, would you like to see this as a regular occurrence or an annual occurrence, Mats?
Well, I think there was a lot of talk about maybe doing something similar in Canada. That would I think come out really well. And we, like Rick said, we looked at their lineup before the game, and I said, guys, we gotta be in trouble here. They had the Lidströms and Forsberg and Henrik Sederberg. I said, God, is he allowed to play? He just retired. There's a bunch of other guys there. So, but we did a really good job, and I think the amount of money that we raised, and when you have all these great players from the Toronto alumni, but also from Team Sweden, really many of the best that played the last 20 and 30 years, a lot of people came out, and what a great cause. So it'd be great to see something similar happening hopefully in Canada the next time.
Fantastic.
Well, I know they're working on it, Mats, and
great.
I think they're if they do it, they'll end up getting a charter for the Swedish guys to all come over to Canada. Yeah. So hopefully that comes to fruition and it happens. It would be great and
awesome.
But
Well, I was going to say
it would be fabulous.
Yeah, that's something that definitely should be done on an annual basis. And I know the reception over here would be fantastic, as you guys both know, about the reception they've been getting, how highly thought of Boreas was to the hockey community, not only at large, but particularly in the Toronto area. Yeah. And just brings me to the question, Mats, how influential was Boreas in your career?
Well, we're such a obviously different generation, but I had the chance, my first Canada Cup when I was 20, Boreas was on that team. So we did play a Canada Cup together in Toronto. And then the most important thing, once I got traded to the Maple Leafs, he was really the first. I was up actually in Kiruna, where his hometown, at the time when I found out about the trade. So I talked to Borje pretty much the same day, and that was very important for me. And then throughout my career with the Maple Leafs, when things are going well or things were being tough, he was always there as a great mentor for me. And when I was asked to get a chance to be the captain, I wasn't sure what to expect from that, but he was so convincing, telling me, you have to take it, Mats. That's a huge honor to be the captain in a National Hockey League team, and especially for the Toronto Maple Leafs. So he was really monumental in my decision there, and he was always such a great supporter throughout my career. So he was very important for me.
Yeah, now that was interesting. Now, I always wondered, because I remember when Harold Ballard, he just came up to me and he says, "You're the captain." And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm the captain? I was 22 years old, and I'm thinking, but if I say no to him, he's going to trade my ass. And he more than likely would have if I had said no. And so Borje was, I'm assuming he turned it down, I think, just before Ballard told me that I was the captain. And I think that probably is one of the reasons why he told you how important it was to take it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he told Rick and I on the podcast when we had him on a couple of years ago that the biggest mistake he made in his career was not accepting the C of the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah.
And he said it was more a language concern than anything, nothing to do with the team or anything like that. But when he spoke to you, he was very insistent. He said to make sure that you understood what it meant and you should take it.
Yeah, exactly. And exactly what he told me exactly the same thing. He said it was an opportunity that I felt at the time that I wasn't ready to do, but he really regretted that the rest of his career.
So let's.
Yeah, well, he helped me along the way too, Matt. He sat right beside me for 7 years. Yeah. And I got to tell you, he was so supportive when I was a young captain, and those are things that I'll never forget. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you also had you got to tell the devil. You got to tell Matt's the devil story. You had the devil on one side.
Yeah, it's kind of. So I get traded to Toronto, and I get seated in the middle of Ron Ellis on one side and Borje on the other side. So it was kind of like that cartoon where you have the devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other one, because Ron was a born-again Christian at the time. And I'm going, which way do I go? And obviously I went more towards Borje's side, obviously. Now, I didn't go skiing in the afternoon of a game or anything, but had a lot of fun.
Yes. Well, so let's take Matt's back and just start off, take us through the early part of when you were a kid growing up and starting to play hockey, how you got involved in the game and just how you got going.
You know what? I think it would look very similar to what Rick went through as a child. I think Sweden, as you know, hockey is one of the, maybe not as much national sport as in Canada, but it's right up there with soccer. So, and we have the same winters you do. So it was just playing street hockey right from the beginning. We didn't have the connection to the National Hockey League in those days, the 80s and 90s, just because of media. We were able to see some highlights, but 2-3 days later. So the big idols that we grew up looking at was the national team and the players that were there, and NHL Swedish players coming over for the big tournaments. But hockey, my dad is a former hockey goalie as growing up, and so we come, and my mother is even more interested in sports, and that's sports in general, not only hockey but anything, and that goes on right now. They watches cross-country skiing world championship, whatever is on TV, and so my background is really from a sports family. Two brothers. I was in the middle, and as you know, that you're in the middle or the younger one, you want to do what your older brother does. And my older brother starts skating. We have a little lake outside our house where I grew up, and street hockey, anything with sports, but obviously hockey was always number one for me growing up.